Good morning, family. It's Pastor Brian here, and as you guys know, if you're seeing me show up on your live, it's because there's some good news. Pastor Brian is still just overflowed with joy, excitement about what took place yesterday. For those who were there, for those who saw or watched our service yesterday, you know that the Spirit of God broke in and we shifted. We shifted to a place that I don't ever want to see us return back to. And so, because of that, Pastor Brian, Pastor Brian is going to spend these next 26 days coming on in the morning and being your agent of change. Yesterday, we talked about and put our foot in the ground and said, everything must change. Everything must change if we are going to experience overflow in 2023. Everything must change right now. We're no longer going to live lives below the standard that God has set. We're no longer going to live lives that we don't experience the goodness of God overflowing right here in the land of the living. And so I'm here this morning to invite you on a journey of change. I'll be here in the morning with you. Listen, Pastor Brian is an early riser. Catch it when you can catch it. But I'm telling you right now, these final days of this year, I'm going to walk through them with you and make sure that what God started yesterday, we finished. I love you guys so very much that there was just a burden in my heart. I said, God, I'm not going to leave them out there to figure this out by themselves. If we started something yesterday, we're going to finish it. And so these next 26 days, listen, get everybody you know that's been talking about things need to change. Tell them to tap in, tell them to join in, tell them that this is your moment, this is your time. Don't make any excuses. Show up, be there in the mornings because we are going to change. I'm not going to be the same. You're not going to be the same. And if there's anybody you know that is tired and just done with what has been and is ready to experience what God has for them, tell them to tap in 6:30 a.m. live. Catch it on the replay if you need to. Pastor Brian is going to be there. Mr. Good News himself, Mr. Have a Good Day, is going to be your agent of change so that the overflow God has for you in 2023, you can experience it like, like God has designed for you to experience it. And just to show you a little love this morning, where are we coming from? We're coming from Luke 5 and 27. And let me read this to you, right? In verse 36, Jesus says, listen, then Jesus gave them this illustration. No one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and uses it to patch an old garment, for then the new garment would be ruined, and then the new patch wouldn't even match the old garment. What is Jesus saying? He's saying everything on the outward, everything about your appearance, everything about you has to be new. Everything has to change. You don't take a piece and say, man, I like this piece, so I'm just going to attach this old thing to this new thing. No, the new thing God wants to do in your life, the new thing that God is doing in your life, it requires absolute change. That means your posture has to change. Your dress has to change. Your attitude has to change. Your outward experience, right? Some people are like, I'm just not emotional. Well, guess what? God's going to give you some emotions because we are people that bring people into us through the joy we exude from our lives. And so God wants to make sure that the joy you're feeling on the inside, people can see it on the outside. And I'll walk you through how to make that change. Also, Jesus goes on and says, and no one puts new wine into old wineskins, for the new wine would burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine must be stored in new wineskins, but no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine. The old is just fine, they say, and we went all the way in detail about this in yesterday's service. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it so that you can be a part of this change that we'll be walking through. Like I said, I'm going to spend the next 26 days as we end this year walking you through how to make sure everything changes that God wants for you to change, so that when you hit 2023, you'll be hitting the ground running. Pastor Brian Poe, Mr. Good News himself, Mr. Have a Good Day, is going to be your change agent so that everything that God has for you in 2023, you'll experience in overflow and abundance. And like Jesus said there, that means that you cannot take this new that God has for you in 2023 and pour it into an old vessel. You can't put it into an old wineskin. The new will burst it, ruining everything that God had wanted to do. Jesus says everything must change. The vessel must change. The input must change. The inside got to change. The outside has to change. And Pastor Brian is going to walk you through this because guess what? I love you guys. Man, everything must change. If you haven't seen it, go watch the replay. It's on our YouTube, it's on our Facebook, and I'm going to make sure that what God has designed for you to experience, you are going to experience in overflow until you are satisfied. I thank God for you guys. I love you guys, and you guys know it is always a good day to have a good day. Pastor Brian was going to make a post about this, but I was like, you know what? I'm up. They probably up. So let's be up together with what God is doing in this season. He broke through. I think we had like a 2-hour service yesterday and people wouldn't leave. Man, the praise team came up and sung prophetically. A song just burst out of their hearts that they hadn't even written before the moment, about making room for the new God has for you. That's one of the things we're going to talk about, is you have to make room for the new. New experiences, a new life takes new commitments. So you have to clear your plate for the new commitment God is going to be asking you to make so that you can walk in the new he has for you. Listen, we're clearing our palates. We're saying, God, we are here for you. We are going to make room for what you have for us in our lives. And Pastor Brian, your agent of change, is here to make sure that you don't miss it. Listen, I love simple truth. We're all about simple truth and making it clear. And so I, for one, didn't want you to wake up this morning and say, what am I going to do with all I was stirred up with yesterday? No, we're going to walk through it together. I love you guys. I thank God for you guys. And just remember this one thing we talked about yesterday, right? One thoughtful moment is worth more than 1,000 mindless traditions. Truth is, one thoughtful moment is worth more than 1,000 mindless traditions. What are you doing today that doesn't even wake up the mentality of Christ inside of you? There's a mind of Christ that's living inside of you. It's active, it's alive, and it wants to go to work to bring the goodness of God to your life into flourishing. God wants to see you experience the good that he sent his son so that you could experience. And we're going to see that good right here in the land of the living. I love you guys. Thank God for you guys. And see you in the chat as we take this journey, because everything must change.